You know that feeling, right? Sitting through a corporate training and thinking, this is a complete waste of my time. We've all been there. So, what's the deal? Why do some training programs totally nail it while others, even the really expensive ones, just fall flat? Well, today we're going to unpack the single biggest reason. Let's get into it. Okay, seriously, think back to the last training you took that just flopped. Was it boring, totally irrelevant to your job? And here's the real test. Did you go back to your desk and do anything differently? Chances are, probably not. The hard truth is, a ton of training just doesn't work. And you know what? It's not always the trainer's fault or even the materials they were using. Yeah, this quote from our source material absolutely nails it. We see it all the time, don't we? Training that looks slick, it's polished, it's professional, but ultimately it fails to deliver any real impact. It doesn't move the needle one bit. So what gives? How do we stop this cycle and start creating training that actually, works? All right, the whole journey really starts with figuring out where the problem even comes from in the first place. And almost always it gets spotted as something called a performance gap. And really, the concept itself is super simple. On one side, you've got current performance. That's what your team is doing right now. On the other side, desired performance. That's what the company needs them to be doing. And that big space in the middle? Yep, that's your performance gap. And that's usually the exact moment someone panics and shouts, "We need training!" But wait, hold on a second. Before we all rush off to build a brand new course, we have to stop and ask the single most important question. Is this gap really a learning problem? I mean, is it truly caused by a lack of knowledge or skill? Because, and this is huge, if it's not, then no amount of training, I don't care how fancy it is ever going to fix it. And this is what I'm talking about. These are the real culprits that often get disguised as training problems. Like, do your people have the right tools to even do the job? Because if not, that's a resource issue, not a training one. Or maybe they don't even know what good is supposed to look like. That's a classic expectations problem. Or what if they're just not motivated because the company culture is a mess? You can't train your way out of that. All these things need completely different fixes. So, okay, if we can't just throw training at every single problem, what's the answer? Well, it's this. We start with the analyze phase. This is, without a doubt, the most critical step in creating any effective learning experience. Period. And I really want you to get this. This isn't just step one on a checklist. It is the foundation. Everything else, the design, the development, the delivery, it's all built right on top of this. If you get this part wrong, the whole thing is going to be wobbly. The entire structure is just unstable. So what is this analyze phase anyway? Think of it like being a detective. It's our investigation phase. We're not jumping to conclusions or building solutions yet. Nope, we're just gathering clues. We're trying to clearly define the problem, really get to know the learners, and figure out what success even looks like. Okay, that sounds great, but how do you actually do this analysis? Well, the whole process rests on what we'll call 4 pillars. These are the 4 things that make sure our foundation is absolutely rock solid. And here they are: needs, learner, task, and context. You can kind of think of them as your detective's checklist. If you look at the problem through each of these 4 lenses, you can be pretty sure you haven't missed a critical piece of the puzzle. So let's break them down one by one. First up is the needs analysis. This is all about the big why. Like, why are we even talking about training in the first place? What's the actual business goal we're trying to hit? Are we trying to boost sales by 10%, cut down on safety incidents, get customer satisfaction scores up by 15 points? See, this pillar connects the training directly to something the business actually cares about. And honestly, if you can't find that connection, you should probably just stop right there. All right, next pillar, learner analysis. This is the who. Simple as that. Who are these people we're supposed to be training? Are they total beginners or seasoned experts? Are they pumped for this change, or are they digging their heels in? What's their deal with technology? Are they comfortable with it or not? I mean, trying to design a course without knowing your audience, it's like throwing darts in a dark room. You might get lucky, but odds are you're going to miss the board entirely. Pillar number 3 is task analysis. This is the what. So if the needs analysis was that big picture business why, this one is the nitty-gritty, on-the-ground what. What exactly do people need to be able to do when the training is over? And notice I said do, not know. We're talking about performance. So for sales training, this would mean breaking down the literal steps of a great discovery call. From that very first opening line all the way to how they log their notes in the system. And last but not least, we have context analysis. This is the where and the how. Where are they actually going to use these new skills? On a super noisy factory floor? In a crazy busy call center? Do they even have computers? Are they only going to have like 15 minutes a week for training? This is the reality check. It's what makes sure your solution is actually practical. A mobile app might be perfect for a sales team that's always on the road, right? But for factory workers who can't have their phones on the floor, not so much.
So once you've actually put in the work, you've gone through all 4 of these pillars, what you have at the end isn't just some vague idea of the problem. No way. You have a detailed, honest-to-goodness blueprint for building the right solution.
And this is the payoff for all that detective work. You walk away with a crystal clear problem statement. You have specific, defined learning goals. You even have a plan for how you're going to measure success. Plus, you know all the real-world constraints like your budget or your timeline. This blueprint becomes your guide for every single decision you make from this point forward.
Wanting to rush past this analysis phase to get to the fun stuff, like designing the course, it's probably the single most common and most costly mistake people make. It's kind of like a chef trying to whip up a gourmet meal with no recipe. I mean, you can guess what the result's going to be, right? Pretty predictable. So the next time someone asks you to create a training program, just pause. Before you fire up PowerPoint or your fancy e-learning tool, just stop and ask yourself this one question. Is this project being built on solid rock, or is it being built on sand? Because that answer, well, it's going to determine absolutely everything.